Hi, I'm Anthony for City Backyard Veggies. Just over here at my tomato patch. This is my second planting of tomatoes here behind me. I've done very minimal work on these at the moment, but I need to come through and give them a real good prune and add a bit of fertilizer and just do some general maintenance on the plants. So come and join me while I go and do this work now on my tomato patch. So just looking at my tomatoes, these tomatoes had their first initial prune about 3 weeks ago, and I'm going to come through now and do another prune as part of my general maintenance for these plants. Now, I do have a few videos of how I prune these tomatoes, and I will share them in the link in the caption. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come through and just prune all the lower leaves so that they're not touching the floor, just to free up a bit of that space around the base of the plant. And then what I'm doing is, as I'm moving up, I'm just again clearing out some of that clutter in the leaf matter. There's a lot of leaves on these plants, so I'm going to come through, continue on. Now I generally do grow my tomatoes to have at least 3 litres. So here I've got my 3rd litre, 1, 2, 3. I do have my tomatoes here at the moment, but now that I've generally just finished off the pruning, what I'm doing now is just making sure as part of my pruning regime that I come back and readjust the leaders, make sure that they're properly staked against the posts and tying them back down. So just got to finish off that last one here, and then I'll just move on to continue pruning the rest. So coming over to my next tomato, again the same process, removing those lower leaves. As I'm moving up, looking at which leaders I want to keep. Stage, this one is pruned down to 2 litres. I might keep this one as my 3rd and this one here is my 4th, so which is fine. So I'll just remove this leaf, then I'll come back through and constantly look at retraining the leaders onto the stake. There's just one final one over here, and then there you have it. Okay, I'm going to go through and just finish off the rest of the pruning, and then I'll go on to the next task for these tomatoes. So I've just gone through and finished off pruning all these tomatoes, and they're looking a lot better. I've gone through and made sure all those leaders are properly trained along the stakes. Added a few stakes where I needed it for those additional new leaders, and just pruned all those lower leaves. So what I'm going to do now is add the first round of potash to the plants. Potash is great for tomatoes. They really need it to grow well. What I've got is as you can see there, it's just sulfate of potash. I'm going to go through and just add a little handful to the base of each of these plants, and then go on from there to start healing. So now that I've finished adding those amendments, I'm going to come through now and bring my hoe and actually move the soil and actually essentially heal the plants. And I'll try to get the soil to come up to about 10 centimeters up along the base of the plant. And the idea is that it will encourage it to put on more roots, and it'll give it an overall larger root ball, which will really help them survive the warmer, drier months this year. So with my I'm going to get my hoe now and start moving the soil from both the left hand side and the right hand side of the row, and just moving it to the middle. And at the same time, what that will do is it'll actually knock out a lot of those weeds that seem to be growing, the annual grasses that are growing in between the in between the rows. So I'm going to go through that and do that right now. So I've gone through and I've just tilled all those plants. I do this with all my tomatoes. I find it water's better. I find that the roots are stronger. And I find the plants actually generally just healthier. So at this stage, what I'm going to do is I've got a lot of fruit on, and I am starting to see the first signs of caterpillar damage. Now it's warming up, you're going to get a lot more pest pressure. And also at this stage in my garden, I do have a lot of problems with spider mites. I do have a lot of problems with thrips and also the caterpillars. So as part of my gardening regime, I do use contact-based sprays, and I do use sulfur-based fungicides. So I do prefer to spray in the late afternoon, because especially with the likes of the fungicides, they tend to burn the leaves of the plants if the weather's too hot. Now today it's only early 20s, so it's not too hot, but I prefer to spray in the late afternoon. So I'm going to come back in a few hours time and I'll show you what I use to spray my tomatoes. So I'm over at my patch next morning. Yesterday was quite warm, so I couldn't do my sprays, but what I'm doing at the moment is I'm going to look at spraying to control a couple of different issues that I can get in my tomatoes over the summer periods. The first thing that I really look at controlling is any impacts from cabbage, butterfly, moth, caterpillars. As it warms up, it does get a lot. I do get a lot more damage from them during the summer months, and if you're not kept in check, they will decimate your whole crop. I'm also trying to control spider mites. Again, I do have a lot of problems with spider mites in my patch every year, and you can tell the damage that you're getting from spider mites. Just simply the plant actually physically goes a bronze color, and that's caused by the spider mites sucking away at all the chlorophyll. And what that does is actually just it makes the plant struggle, so you end up getting a smaller crop. To control spider mites, I actually use wettable sulfur. This is, you can get it at any nursery. I do spray this regularly as a preventative, but when I know that there are spider mites, I do spray this on a almost weekly basis just to get rid of most of those spider mites. The key here with wettable sulfur is don't spray it on really hot days. It will burn the tips of your plants. But also don't spray on your cucumbers. Cucumbers and sulfur, wettable sulfur, do not mix. So I made that mistake before. Please do not make that mistake in your garden. But also don't use wettable sulfur when you are using oil-based products like eco oil or white oil. You're better off using contact sprays, something like pyrethrum or something like that. That's not oil-based, and it won't impact, because these don't. Wettable sulfur and oil-based sprays don't mix. I also have a lot of issues with blight and bacterial spot on my tomatoes, and to control that, in combination with the wettable sulfur, I use copper oxychloride. Again, this is fine to use on most of the other plants. This one I find doesn't have as much of an issue when it comes to spraying in the heat. So if it's a really hot day and you feel the need to spray, you can go the copper oxychloride. It's not a miticide, so it won't control your spider mites, but it does still give you that protection from the fungal diseases. It's really good. You can use this on cucumbers. This is safe to use on cucumbers, and I use this regularly on my cucumber plants. What I'm also going to mix in this, and I didn't get on this before, to control the caterpillars, I will use pyrethrum. That's my go-to contact spray. It's quite safe, and I use it fortnightly on my patch. If I do see that there is a disease coming through the plants, I will ramp that spray up to a weekly spray. So I'm going to go through now, mix up my solution and go through and spray my tomatoes. So I've just gone through and given the plants a good wash with the spray. I make sure I pick up all the plants, from even underneath the leaves and the fruit as well. And the idea here is just to make sure you get a full coverage of that spray. Those plants will be good for 2 weeks now. So every fortnight when I come through and do my prune, I will come through, check for diseases, prune off any of the diseased leaves, and then come back and treat with the miticide and the fungicides just to make sure I keep those pests at bay. So now what I'm going to do now is just keep looking after the tomato plants, just making sure they're watered, and just do a regular check to make sure they're being adequately supported. But looks like it's going to be a good season at my end. So I'm hoping that I can in a few months time show you my bumper crop of tomatoes. Thank you very much for joining me in today's video. I really appreciate the support and look forward to sharing more content with you in the future, and all the best luck with your tomato plants this season. Thank you again.